was on buddy watch. I was flying to wherever he was going to kick this goal. It was set up perfectly. He marked it right near me. He kicked the goal. People were already running onto the ground. I kind of, just got a small celebration and just started running as quickly as I could, and then probably got to within 10 metres of him and just hit a brick wall of people. And all I could feel behind me were all these bodies piling up. I stood up on my feet, held the camera up above my head. He, as luck would have it, faced towards me, gave a fist pump. I took maybe 20 frames, flicked the camera screen back, just had a quick look on the back and saw the key image. And I'm like, I'm not going to get anything better than that. And I got out of there. So I was only out there for maybe a minute tops. Downloaded the pictures, found that frame, just gave it a little crop and sent it out as quickly as I possibly could, because I knew this was going to be the first picture that people saw of this moment.
G'day guys, coming up on the show today is Michael Willson. Michael is the chief photographer at the AFL. If you followed the AFL before, there is a great chance that you have seen one of Michael's masterpieces. Michael's shot some incredible shots over the years, including Buddy 1000, countless grand finals, and has worked across pretty much every big game in the AFL over the last 15 years. We are absolutely pumped about this one, so let's go.
I started volunteering.
It's all about who you know in sport.
Am I going to be calling the last 10 seconds of the grand final?
You can connect with the interviewer. The hand goes up when they've got to make a decision.
Having a network is one of the most important things you can do.
I didn't necessarily follow my passion. I followed my curiosity.
Once you've worked in sport, there's no going back.
And then lo and behold, before I left, I got offered 2.
Hello and welcome to the SportsGrad Podcast, the ultimate guide to make it in the sports industry. I'm Ryan Walker and joining me is the content king, Ruben Williams. We are two mates who met at Cricket Australia, and each week we learn how people made it in sports and we tease out their career decisions, their work habits, skills and everything they do that makes them great. Also, you can learn how to get in, get promoted and get thriving in the sports industry. Ruben Williams, how are you, mate?
Mate, I'm fantastic. I'm buzzing at the moment. Not only have we just had one of the great podcast episodes of all time, but prior to the recording, I had to duck out for about 30 minutes to attend a quick drink that my friend invited me to. I tried to cancel on him. He said, no, just give me half an hour of your time. Me and my partner Grace need to talk to you about something. And I was like, okay, here we go. And I arrived there. Straight away, they pull out a bottle of wine that says, Ruben, will you be our MC?
I can see it right here. And I'll just get this handed to me.
I am going to be MCing a wedding.
You've even got a name on it.
I know. It's incredible.
That is absolutely outstanding. I must say, I was a little bit worried when you said, I've just got to duck out for 45 minutes. And this was about an hour before the podcast was starting. I was like, geez, what's going to happen here? I'm not going to be left solo here for one of the great episodes coming up. But that is incredible. I hope that's not in the frames. I might just move that over here for now. But wow.
I know.
Incredible. That's a good pre-pod.
I know. The podcasting has taken us many places, but hosting a wedding is one place I'd never thought it would take me. So I'm having a great evening, Mike, Ryan.
Entering the wedding MC game, which will be a new type of game, I suppose. We're usually just recorded behind the mic operators. That's like live real stuff.
I know. Well, this will be going on the LinkedIn skills for sure. Wedding MC. Yes,
100%.
We'll see how it goes, and I might put the call out to say if anyone else needs their wedding MC'd, it's a gun for hire.
MC grad?
MC grad. Wedding grad?
Perhaps this is the next stage of
how to become a wedding MC.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's super exciting, mate. And that is brilliant. I would love to come and see that all transpire.
Yeah, come along.
Anyway, let's get on with the episode. If you haven't already, you can follow us on LinkedIn. If you want to connect with us and hundreds of others working in sport, become a member of the SportsGrad community. Rubes, what's been happening as of late?
Oh, another big week for our members, and this shout out goes to a couple of our favourites. Now, one of them, Narasaram Ravi, who was one of the very first coaching clients of mine way back in 2020. At the start of the pandemic, He hit me up and we started doing some work together. He's had a number of different roles, been up to Brisbane and back. He's just become the multicultural manager at the Western Bulldogs, which is just an awesome place to work, awesome role to have. The western suburbs of Melbourne, very multicultural. To be in charge of that division is a huge responsibility, but a huge honour for Ravi. So well done to you, mate. That's fantastic. Another community member, Bradley McGee. Now, he started as a intern at the Geelong Cats probably sometime last year.
Yep.
He's now got a full-time job as a digital coordinator with the reigning Premier. So well done to you, Bradley, for turning that internship into a full-time job.
Brilliant.
Now, as always, we've got a couple of jobs posted on our jobs board. This one's, all three are very exciting. First one, National Event Operations Coordinator at Cricket Australia. Another one at Cricket Australia, Cricket Operations Coordinator. Two fantastic entry-level jobs, might I say. And then one for Melbourne Victory in the A-League, Membership Team Leader. So if you're interested in them, head to our job board.
It's a great lineup, I must say.
Very good lineup.
I'd almost say our best lineup of the year so far. So that's brilliant.
And there's heaps more available when you head to the website. I think we got a link in the show notes if you want to go straight there. And then in our community, we've got our events that happen every Wednesday night. So here's what's coming up in the next 4 weeks. So this week, this Wednesday night, this will go out on Monday. This Wednesday night, we are joining forces with Study Melbourne and Intern Match to run a networking event at the MCG of all places, where Michael Willson does his best work.
Yeah.
So come along to that, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. to get an introduction to networking.
And with that, we've got a special role. Do you want to shed a bit of light on what that is?
We are going to be quiz masters. It's been a big week.
Yeah, it has.
MC, quiz master. It's a few new responsibilities.
Yeah, there's been a lot happening as of late. A lot of us behind the mics, which this is going to be great though. Trivia masters have never been called that before. So.
Yeah, well, it's very transferable skills we're getting asked to use.
Oh yeah.
So we've got intern match this Wednesday night at the MCG, which is going to be phenomenal. Then next Wednesday in the community, you would have heard Clayton Henderson on the podcast last week. He's jumping on to chat with our community members about how to get your first full-time job in sport. Then the week after that, we're chatting all about grassroots sport and what sort of opportunities you can create for yourself there. If you have a listen to Michael, you'll find out about what he did in grassroots sport to begin with. And then finally, after that, we've got a job fair. We're inviting in our wonderful organisations who work with us to share the jobs that they have on offer at the moment. So you can chat directly to the HR managers and get all your questions answered at once. So there's a lot to take in. There's a lot going on in the community, as we say every single week. The best way to stay on top of that and make sure you do not miss out on anything is to subscribe to our newsletter. Head to sportsgrad.com.au/newsletter to subscribe. And there's a link in the show notes to join that.
Brilliant. Never been a better time to jump into the community. I must say that the lineup is looking very strong. So get involved. Anyway, let's get into this episode because it is an absolute worldie. So good luck. We hope you enjoy. Grab a pen. Enjoy this chat with Michael Willson. There's a reason Deacon's sports management course attracts the greatest talent the nation has to offer. Because when you join the longest running sports management course in Australia, you'll gain access to unique opportunities with leading clubs and organisations. Their partnerships with the Geelong Footy Club, Deakin Melbourne Boomers and Netball Victoria and multiple elite industry partners will open the door to exciting placement experiences that connect you with the best athletes, managers and administrators in sport. Help shape the future of the sports industry. Secure your part in the golden decade of sport. Michael, welcome to the SportsGrad Podcast.
Thank you, boys. Thanks for having me.
Michael, it's great to have you in here. We're gonna dive into your photography career in just a sec, but before we do that, I'm hoping you could help me solve a bit of a dilemma because there comes a time in every young athlete's life where career, life starts to get in the way, and you start to think, is it worth still playing football? Is it still worth playing local cricket? And every week you go to training, you're like, why am I still doing this? I should be focusing on my career, all the other important things. But in doing some research for this episode, we found out that one of your greatest life achievements, despite the 16 years of AFL photography that you've done, is winning a premiership with the Lake Boga Football Club in the Central Murray Football Association.
That's it, yep.
So I'm now 28. Last cricket season, I managed 2 games. Year before that, another 2 games.
Yep.
I'm teetering on the edge. Given your sort of experience, what would you advise someone do in that situation?
Don't retire. No, as you mentioned, the 2003 premiership that I played in with Lake Boga it's one of the greatest days of my life, actually, the day we won it. Growing up in Swan Hill, it was just a dream to play in a premiership with the team that you played all your football with. So it was something I aspired to do, and in a small town like Swan Hill, so much revolves around football, community. The grassroots aspects of the game is what I think has held me in good stead with my career. So, no, I'm so glad that I stuck it out. I think I was like maybe 27 at the time. I played a couple of years down in Melbourne after that, but after that, that's when I really got serious with my photography. But my advice would be, while you're young and you can still sort of move fairly freely, to just do the best you can and try and achieve those sporting goals at whatever level you're playing at.
Are you a chance of going back and playing any twos on the weekend, or? No,
but we do have our 20-year premiership reunion in July this year, which I can't wait for. It's going to be fantastic to see all the boys again and just reminisce on that fantastic September day in 03.
So you're Swan Hill born and bred?
Yep. Born in Swan Hill and lived there till I was about 18. And my parents until just last year were still living up there. They've since moved down to Ocean Grove, but I still occasionally get back there. It is difficult at times with my job, working weekends. To get back, but when I do, it's always fantastic to get back there. It's a good spot of Victoria.
That's hit home hard. I should be on the football field. Don't know why I'm not. Only 27 and I've pretty much given it away. So I feel a little bit bad about after that.
I've only played 2 years of country football and played a few years of Amos before that. There is a very different feel amongst country football clubs that is quite totally special, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. As I mentioned, I played 2 years down here in the Southern Football League after my time at Lake Boga, and country football has a totally different feel. It's such an invested pastime with all the community that lives in that area, and it's for me, it's about where you grew up, and you're playing for the jumper that you just is what you grew up with, and it's all you know. So, yeah, for me, it has a much deeper meaning and deeper feeling playing, country football as opposed to Metro or Amos, yeah.
And lots of like genuine rivalries. Like I was playing at Lawn Football Club, and every year they'd play off for the Coastal Cup against Apollo Bay. And there are a few of the old blokes who didn't care about winning the premiership. All they wanted us to do was win the Coastal Cup.
Yep.
Every other game of the season, doesn't matter, just beat Apollo Bay.
Yeah, no, well, Lake Boga's got probably Warraneen and Swan Hill, the two big rivalries up in Swan Hill, and yeah, the 2003 grand final we beat Swan Hill, so that was pretty sweet.
What was the margin?
There was like 40-something points in the end. It was an amazing turnaround because 2 weeks earlier in the first semi or second semi, whatever it was, they punched us by 10 goals.
Wow.
So we were backs to the wall and thought we were going to go out in straight sets again because that was what sort of happened at Lake Boga those early 2000 years. But yeah, we, I don't know, grand final day, things just went our way. We were just committed and we got over the line by 40-something points. So yeah, it was a big turnaround in 2 weeks. A lot can happen in 2 weeks.
And what position did you play out of interest?
I was like a half-forward flanker. Bit of a goal sneak. Nice. Didn't get any in the grand final, which is devastating. But I was always a bit of a half-forward flanker, maybe swapping on the ball occasionally. Didn't have a huge engine, but knew where the goals were.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Sounds like me. All right, Michael, we usually start every episode with some quick fire questions so the audience can get to know you. So we've got a few lined up here and we'll get some answers. And if there's any that interest us, we'll ask you after as well. The first one is, what was your first ever job?
Paperboy at The Guardian newspaper in Swan Hill. Found out pretty early on I was not a morning person. Lasted 2 weeks and that was about it. But that was my first official job, delivering the newspaper in Swan Hill.
So the late night footy works well for you then?
Yeah. It does. Yeah, I'm a bit of a night owl, yeah.
And what did you study at university?
So I studied a Bachelor of Visual Arts in graphic design at La Trobe University in Bendigo. Yep.
Nice. Favourite sporting moment?
The game that always sticks out in my memory was the 2010 drawn grand final between St Kilda and Collingwood. Historic in a sense that we'll never have a moment like that again in the history of the game, a drawn grand final. But there was just this crazy, eerie feeling when that siren went. Just confusion everywhere. Nobody knew what was happening, what was going on. This weird storm blew over the ground, like the change rooms flooded. Like there was just weird stuff happening. And I don't know, for me it was a little bit of, the ghosts of 1966 looking down and sort of, wreaking havoc. But I'll just always remember that game. Privileged to have witnessed it in person, the last drawn grand final. We'll probably, down the track think, I can't believe they actually played drawn grand finals back then. It's such a bizarre thing. But to be part of it and to be there and have front row seats to it, was one of the games that sticks out in the memory.
This isn't on our list, but who do you go for, Adam? Just out of interest.
Well, I am a Collingwood supporter. But, working at the AFL, I've learned to be quite neutral. So I like to see all teams do well, but I'm pretty excited about Collingwood's prospects this year. Just going off round one, very excited.
Fair enough too. And if you had 30 minutes to pick the brain of anybody, who would it be?
Yeah, I don't have a specific person, but I have thought about this. I think I'd love to go back in time to chat to a sports photographer based in Melbourne that was shooting VFL at the time and just see how they went about their job and what similarities are still there in this digital age, that they were kind of, had similar sort of obstacles and goals when they were shooting a match. I'd just love to pick their brain and, did they get there 2 hours before the game like we do? Did they ever have a specific request from a cigarette company or something to get a photo of one of their players? I don't know. I would just love to go back in time and pick the brain of a sports photographer back in the 30s or 40s, just that bygone
that
era.
far back.
Yeah. I'm talking a long time ago, and just compare our roles and see what aspects of them are still the same.
Compare the equipment as well. It'd be a little bit of an eye-opener.
That would be an eye-opener. I mean, I look at the equipment I was using when I started and, we've come so far. We digital and now mirrorless has opened up a whole sort of new realm of possibilities for sports photographers,
We're going to need to get a definition on mirrorless.
Well, mirrorless basically means that the camera doesn't have a mirror. It's got an electronic shutter as opposed to a digital SLR, which has got a mechanical shutter, which opens up and lets the light in and exposes the sensor in that way. Whereas, with a mirrorless camera, it's all electronic, and it doesn't have a traditional viewfinder as such. So you're looking at a video screen in the eyepiece that's basically doing the role of what a viewfinder would do on a traditional camera. So the great thing about mirrorless is they're silent. There's no operation sound when the camera takes a photo. So it's going to be great for those candid moments, inner sanctum access where, meetings, that kind of thing, where you don't want the shutter to be heard. It's going to open up a lot of possibilities in that area. Yeah.
There you go. We've already learned something new.
Bit of tech jargon for you. That's as deep as I go with technical talk.
That was good.
Brilliant. Well, let's get into sort of why you chose photography as a full-time gig. Was there sort of a moment of realisation where you thought, this is the path I want to get on?
Looking back, from an early age, I always had footy photos from the newspaper cut out and stuck up on the wall as a kid, when you're 8, 9, 10, those sorts of ages. And always kind of, just loved the still photo of the game. I can remember actually, this is showing my age a bit, but the 1990 grand final, Collingwood beat Essendon. I can remember I recorded it on a VCR tape and was playing it back and pausing frames of the video, a great action shot and just taking a photo of the TV screen. Obviously it was terrible, but I think back then, I was 12 or 13 at the time and I guess the seed was kind of sown early on that, this was a real interest and something I was, curious about and wanted to pursue. But probably wasn't until I was in my sort of mid-20s, I got really serious about it. Like I said, I did a graphic design degree. So I worked as a graphic designer for 7 or 8 years before I kind of, transitioned into that photography space. So I know they're closely related, design and photography, but it was probably after working in the design area for 7 or 8 years that I realised that, photography is where I want to be. And I guess that was kind of when it all sort of happened for me. Yeah.
No. And how did like the sports photography start to come into it? Because were you going out shooting any sporting match you could find? Were you doing weddings? Were you practicing on all sorts of things? Where did it narrow down to sport? Yeah,
pretty much. I just bit the bullet one day and bought a whole heap of photo gear. So as part of the graphic design course I was doing, I had a camera, and photography was one of our core subjects. I always had the knowledge and the technical skills and the background, and this is back in the film days, so darkroom skills and all that kind of stuff. But just as digital was sort of taking off in 04, 05, I just bit the bullet, bought a decent digital camera, bought a big lens, telephoto lens, to be able to get those great shots, and just started shooting VFL games. Amateur matches, just training sessions, AFL training sessions, basically events where you didn't need accreditation. You could just sort of, stand behind the fence and just get those shots. And that was how I kind of started out, and just sort of taught myself, I guess, to shoot football. And just, over time build up a folio, and, you got to meet other photographers at games and get feedback and all that kind of stuff. And I guess my big break came it was 2005 when I shot an Essendon intra-club match. And again, you didn't need accreditation. You could just rock up.
So no one welcomed you to this?
No. I just rocked up and shot the match, and I just emailed all the pictures I had into the club and just said, hey, I was at your game today. I'm an aspiring photographer. If you can, want to show these pictures on your website, please do so. So, they got back to me straight away and said, these pictures are great. Can you come next week and, take some more pictures? Which was fine. I was happy to do it because, I was just so keen to break into the industry. So I did the same thing the next week, but I met their media manager that day, Simon Matthews, who offered me their photographer's pass for that season. So each AFL club, gets a photographer's pass for a photographer to attend their matches and shoot. And that was my big break, I guess, because I was able to shoot, the elite level game, but also get to network and meet the elite level photographers. So, through that, accessed via Essendon, and I got to really build up a strong folio and got to know some of the really great AFL photographers that were out there, and got feedback off them, and I guess one thing led to another, and it just opportunities started to come, and I'm probably sort of going into your next question, I guess, but in 2007 a full-time role came up at AFL Photos, and it was offered to me, and I took it, and the rest is history.
Amazing.
That's like a genuine, like the perfect story, the perfect pathway of like, you just go and do something to have a crack. You email it through. You somehow make a contact, and then you get a gig through it. Like that is the epitome of like a perfect pathway in.
Yeah, I guess like everyone's path is different. I get a lot of questions about how do I get to where you are, and all I can offer is my experience, and that was, as you say you just got to get out there and sort of network and just work hard and try and do the best you can to build up a folio or a resume, whatever your field is. In photography, it's a folio. And just, get your work out there, get it seen by the right people. And when that one opportunity comes up, you've got to capitalise on it. There's no real second chances. If you get a big opportunity, you've just got to put your best foot forward and just capitalise on it. And then for me, other opportunities came from that. So, that's how it happened for me. And like I said, everyone's story is different, especially in photography. Like a lot of people ask me, should I do this course or that course, or should I do this? Or you can do a course, that's fine. Or, you can just go your own way and just, I think if you've got the talent, the eye and the dedication, you can get to where you want to get to.
And around that 2006, 2007 point in time, what were photography portfolios living on? Because now anyone can open up a website in about half an hour.
Yep.
But back then, was that still the case, or was it living in somewhere other shape or form?
Yeah, well, it was just a website. Social media wasn't, well, Instagram certainly wasn't around in 06, 07. I think Facebook was just sort of starting out. It was just a website. I was fortunate with my design skills that I was able to design my own website and put all my pictures on there. And yeah, that was how it was done back then, just a URL. And before, not too many years before that, but it used to be a printed folio. You'd get all your photos printed up, mounted in a leather sort of carry case, pretty ugly, and present them that way. And same with design folios. Electronic presentations, I guess, started taking off in the early 2000s, and 05, 06, 07 was still all sort of web-based. Yeah.
Do you reckon when you when you got that first gig at Essendon VFL, what kind of allowed you to get to the point where you could do AFL? Was it all the feedback you were getting, or was it through the club, or what allowed you to go to that next level?
Well, it was actually Essendon AFL.
Essendon AFL.
Yeah. Okay. I guess what took me to the next level was, probably networking, getting to know other photographers. So, it really was a case of just them noticing your work, and I would quite often go and pick the brains of these other guys and ask for their opinion on a certain photo I took, or could I have cropped it better, or was the exposure okay, that sort of stuff. So I guess sort of acquiring knowledge and in turn building up your experience is what led to my I guess my career sort of launching after that 2005 season with Essendon.
And I'm asking you to think way back, but when you're chatting with those other AFL photographers, is there any piece of feedback that sticks out in your mind that you still remember from back then?
There was one guy, Ryan Pearce, who helped me a lot when I was starting out. Sometimes the feedback on cropping was pretty honest. Like, it sounds like a little thing, but cropping a photo can make a huge difference to the final presentation of it. And just, getting, always exposing manually, things like that, good habits to get into. Some of the advice that really sticks out in my memory in those early days,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. Let's talk about what's in your kit bag.
Yeah.
We're having a chat about this earlier, and I'm like, I feel like when you look at these photographers, there's just so much stuff in their bag. So keen to hear sort of what's in your bag when you're sitting on the side of a footy ground.
Well, as of 2 weeks ago, 2 brand new Canon R3 mirrorless cameras.
And what do they go for? Are they?
About 7K a piece, yeah. And we've got 2 of them.
Wow.
That's probably, that's not the most expensive piece of equipment. So we've got, 2 camera bodies, a 600mm telephoto lens. That's upwards of sort of 14, 15.
Wow. Just for the lens.
Yeah.
We thought we were paying a bit for our cameras here.
I'm lucky that Gil McLaughlin pays for them all.
Fair enough.
I don't have to fork out for them. But and then we've got a couple of shorter lenses, 70 to 200mm. It's probably 3 or 4K, a 16-35 wide angle, and a 24 to 70, sort of medium range zoom lens. They're about 2 or 3K a piece. So that's basically the photo kit, and then obviously. Laptop and card readers and portable modems and battery packs and all that sort of jazz that goes with all that stuff. So
can see why I need to get there 2 hours before, set all this stuff up.
That's part of it, yeah.
What would be the total value of the bag?
60.
Wow. Does that make you nervous, walking around with so much stuff?
Well, it does a little bit.
Everyone knows now. Michael's got 60K worth of stuff in his bag.
I know, it does make you a little nervous, especially when there's kick to kick on the ground after the game and you're late getting back from the team song in the rooms, and you got thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment on this boundary, and old mate and his son are just there, just belting the Sharon into each other. It does make you a little nervous. Actually, funny story. Buddy Franklin's 1,000th. Was it his 1,000th or his 1,300th? 1,000th goal, I think it was. Yeah. the most common question I get is obviously the huge ground invasion. Was your gear okay? It's like, I had to basically leave my whole kit. My laptop was still out. All my smaller lenses, all that kind of stuff was still out next to my bag. So everyone's sort of, the main question I get is, did all your gear survive? And it did. No one stole anything. Nothing got stood on. But one of the other photographers had his telephoto lens stood on and basically snapped in half. Yeah. Oh. So not a great result, but I think he was going to send the AFL a bill. I don't know if he got paid or not, but it's probably just part of the job.
Yeah.
The gear takes a beating. We're out in the elements. It's they're built pretty robust, the Canon cameras, and it's we're lucky to have the best gear going around.
Yeah. We might jump to that because we did want to ask you about that night. I was fortunate enough to be there as well, and it's up there with one of the greatest moments of all time that I've ever witnessed.
You probably stepped on the guy's camera.
Yeah, it was probably me. I did lose my jacket that night, actually. But how do you prepare for a night like that? Because I saw the report of, I think it was the AFL Annual Report 2022, and it's got your photo on the front with Buddy Franklin in the middle of it. And it was just the most perfect photo of the occasion. So how do you prepare to get that?
Well, you can
could you take us right back? When does preparing start happening for something like this?
Well, preparation started, I guess, in the off season when we knew he was going to be kicking this milestone goal, either round 1 or 2 or 3. It's going to be early in the year. So, I was on buddy watch. I was flying to wherever he was going to kick this goal. So I was at Sydney Olympic Park Stadium, whatever it's called now, Core Stadium, I think it is. Round 1. Thank God he didn't kick it there because it was against the Giants. There was no crowd there. It would have been horrible. It just wouldn't have had the same atmosphere. So for him to kick it at the SCG on a Friday night against Geelong was a great result in round 2. So I guess it was hard to plan for in that there were so many variables, and I've sort of when I've been asked about this in the past, I was really anxious kind of coming into this moment because obviously you want to put your best foot forward, you want to get the best photo from a historical perspective. As well as, there's a lot of commercial aspects that come into a photo like this. Like so many licensees are banking on, great photographic imagery to sell, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of memorabilia. So that weighs on your mind as well. So I guess, the idea I had was I was just going to follow him, up and down the ground wherever he was going. So if he was kicking one end, I'd go up that end. Next quarter, I'd go up the other end to just be in his general area. And my plan of attack was if he kind of marked it or sort of got it in my area, I was going to run out onto the ground after he kicked it. Fortunately, he marked it in my pocket, which was a great result. So as soon as I was sort of in control of the situation, I felt a lot better, a lot more confident that I was going to get something really good. The worst possible result would have been he just got a hand pass into the goal square and kicked just a 3-metre goal and that's it. And, there's no photo in that. That was my nightmare. But luckily it was set up perfectly. He marked it right near me. He was 35 out, slight angle. He was probably 20 metres away from me. And so that's when my plan kicked in. So, okay, I'm going to get this kick, going to get the celebration, and then I'm ditching my big lens, taking out my wide angle, and I'm just going to run as fast as I possibly can, get as close as I can, and just hope for the best. So that's what I did. He kicked the goal. People were already running onto the ground before it had even left his boot. So I kind of, just got a small celebration with my longer lens, dumped it, and just started running as quickly as I could, and then probably got to within 10 metres of him and just hit a brick wall of people. I literally just stopped in my tracks, and all I could feel behind me were all these bodies piling up. And it was actually kind of scary for a few seconds. I was thinking, oh my God, this is going to go really pear-shaped. Someone's going to seriously get hurt because there were kids, it was kind of bedlam. But then it just kind of sort of found its place, and, I think I actually fell over at one stage and then managed to get up on my feet again. And in hindsight, the people falling over in front of me is kind of what made the photo. It sort of, the seas parted. I stood up on my feet, held the camera up above my head, had no idea, if I was focused on Buddy or whatever. It was a bit of a Hail Mary in a way. But just held the camera up above my head. He, as luck would have it, faced towards me, gave a fist pump, and was just in the moment. And I took maybe 25 frames, flicked the camera screen back, just had a quick look on the back, and I saw the key image. And I'm like, I'm not going to get anything better than that. And I got out of there. So I was only out there for maybe a minute tops, and I just saw the picture, and I thought, yep, that's it. That's the frame. Straight away knew it. Went back through the crowd, which took me twice as long because there were still people jumping the fence. It was crazy. Got back to my laptop, which was still there, fortunately. Downloaded the pictures, found that frame, just gave it a little crop, and sent it out as quickly as I possibly could because I knew this was going to be the first picture that people saw of this moment, like this historical moment. And it was the picture that was on the front page of all the newspapers. It just went bananas on socials. I just couldn't get it out quick enough. And with the crowd, it was really frustrating because there was so much of a congestion on the 4G and 5G signals. It was going at like 3K a second. I was like, I just wanted it to get out there as soon as it possibly could. But, it took a couple of minutes to send. And, once it was out there, it just caught fire, which was great.
Wow. We're hanging on every word then. I was like,
that's probably the best 5 minutes of podcasting we've ever had. That is phenomenal.
Incredible.
I don't know where to start.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that.
I'm a massive Buddy fan, and so I flew on the day. I bought a ticket the day before to be there that night.
You're not in the photo, are you?
No, I'm not in the photo. No, my seats are at the opposite end of the ground.
Okay.
But ran onto the field. As he pushed across to exit the SCG, that's when he kind of came past me, and I managed to hold him by the jumper. And I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. But then, I've seen your photo ever since. So to hear your recollection of that photo and that night is, makes me feel very cool.
It was an amazing night, and just rapt that I was able to get, a really great picture out of it. And just really humbling to be like that. That's never going to happen again in my time at the AFL. So to be a part of it and to get a picture that's going to mark that historical occasion is really satisfying. Yeah.
Yep. Did Gil call you up or anything and say, Michael, well done?
No, he didn't on that one. But occasionally he does just send a random text here and there on a photo that I get. I'm trying to remember. The last one I got, I actually took a photo of him and his son's on the bench during a game last year. Gil was taking a selfie with his son, Sydney, and it was actually quite a nice photo. Father son enjoying the game, and then he texted it to me. He actually texted me the selfie photo. He said, like, who took it better? I said, you've outdone me there, Gil.
Nice. Oh, that is incredible, and it's great storytelling. That was just super cool to hear. And I love how the planning also started in the off season. A lot of people would think, you just rock up to the ground and you hope for the best. But the fact that you kind of had that plan in place for so long, and I guess you were riding on so much to go right to be able to get something like that.
And I was lucky a lot did go right. Like I said, it could have gone really pear-shaped had he kicked the goal in the goal square. There was so many variables, and that was where the anxiety came from. But like I said, once I was in control of the situation, once he took that mark in front of me, I had total confidence in my skills and ability to get something decent once I knew where it was going to happen. Yeah.
On nights like that, or at grand finals or other games in general, are you working in a team of photographers, or is it just like, Michael, you're the guy tonight, get to Buddy?
No, we have a team, and we had a team that night in Sydney for Buddy. I think there was maybe 4 or 5 of us on that match. We had a couple of guys up high in the stands as a bit of an insurance policy, just to cover every movement up there. Grand final day, I'm managing a team of I think we might have had like 10 photographers last grand final. So yeah, it's definitely a team effort. It's rarely. I mean, a regular home and away season match. I'm usually on a game with either one other AFL Photos photographer and a Getty Images photographer, and we share our imagery. But yeah, big finals, grand finals, you've got a big team of in excess of 10 photographers for the big dance. Yeah, and we have a massive photographic brief. Just a huge amount of corporate commercial requests come in from AFL corporate partners. We have AFL events to shoot as well at the grand final.
So we used to be the benefactors of those corporate shots. We met working in the commercial team at Cricket Australia. Right. And at the end of every cricket season, we'd have to do post-campaign reporting. Yeah. And on the front cover of all the decks, you'd have like Domain Real Estate on a LED sign with Steve Smith batting in front of it. So we appreciated those shots.
I remember having to fill out the brief, and I'd always forget the date. Getty would be super flattered us. But we were the benefactors.
Yeah, the old LED request. That'd
be fun.
Shooting signs.
Another issue with the mirrorless cameras is they aren't. Because the LEDs are they actually flicker when you take a photo of them. You get these kind of lines through them. It's not ideal. I'm sort of waiting for a few corporate partners to come back and say our sign looks a bit wonky.
You mentioned before you had to get back to your seat and post Buddy's photo, and that something that we'll also chat about before, because we went to the game on Thursday night. And I remember seeing on my Instagram, it's like that. I think you got a really good shot of like the skyline, and it was Carlton, Richmond, and it was just an awesome photo. I remember showing Rubes. I was like, oh, how good's his photo? And it made us think like you're trying to post all this content out while still having to shoot the game. How do you juggle that? Because what if you're doing that and then you miss something?
Yeah, well, it's happened before. It is a juggling act, and you've got to be very mindful of choosing your moments to either file on your laptop or post to social media. I'll only really post to social media during a match if I've got something really, really nice. Otherwise, I'll do it like a quarter time or half time or after the game. But it's the same thing with filing. Like you've got to either get a break in play, like if a goal is scored or there's someone being taken off with an injury or a blood rule. Blood rule is the biggest blessing for a photographer because it's like usually about a minute, and that's valuable time to like download your card and file a few pictures. But I've told this story before. But speaking of missing moments, like I learnt the hard way. I think it was like 2017 or 2018 maybe that Jeremy Howe marked Queen's birthday over Tom McDonald. Huge hanger. But I had my head buried in my laptop when that hanger happened. I was filing the big freeze slide pictures to some clients who needed the pictures quite urgently. So I was sort of had my head down in my laptop and just heard this massive roar. And I was like turned around and looked at the replay, and I was going, oh my God, that is an unbelievable mark, and I can't believe I don't have a photo of it. So I went to a really dark place after that. Beat myself up for weeks about it. But that's the way it goes sometimes, Who's to say that if I had have been on it, an umpire might have been in the way or another player. We get so much interference as photographers. You're basically stationary and you've got 40 players, 36 players going back and forth. There's so much interference. But, you want to give yourself the best chance possible. And to do that, you need to choose your moments carefully to file and to post your content. Yeah.
We've kind of touched on a few different elements, but what does an AFL game day look like for you from start to end?
Mm-hmm. So, like I mentioned earlier, I usually get to a game a couple of hours beforehand. We get a photo brief before each game. So if I'm shooting it on my own with just a Getty editorial photographer, I'll be in charge of the photo brief. So I need to sort of allocate my time and make sure that everything on the brief is going to be covered during the match. So sometimes it's a bit tricky juggling a few things. Like sometimes you have to go to a corporate box to get a photo of, some VIPs or something. Other times you might have to get some photos of an activation before the game, that kind of thing, or just general editorial sort of coverage like colour and fans arriving, that sort of stuff. So, yeah, definitely get there a couple of hours before the game, get set up, get all the gear unpacked on the boundary. And then, once the game starts, you're pretty much in the zone. You're just trying to, cover the game editorially, as well as, just keeping your head around any news stories that are developing during the game, like, reports or injuries, that kind of stuff, and just trying to, capture all the action and not miss any key moments. So, and like I said, mindful of the brief at all times. So, on Sunday I had a huge brief for LEDs. And so, you kind of you got that in the back of your mind while you're sort of trying to cover the game from a editorial perspective as well. So it is a bit of a juggling act. But yeah, you're also filing during the game. So, by quarter time, I like to have probably 10 pictures up on the AFL photo site. Half time, 20 to 30. And then by the end of the game, if you got, 60 to 80 pictures, you're going pretty well. And then after the game, you're there for an hour or hour and a half, just, doing a bit of a sweep over stuff you might have missed earlier in the match. And yeah, so, all up, you're probably looking at like a 6-7 hour sort of day at the footy. And then we do what's called a second edit on all our pictures, either that evening or the following day, where we just go through and pull out all the stock pictures, like pictures that are good for footy card photos and calendars, that kind of stuff. Just, hero shots of players, just general action. So yeah, that's probably an average day in the life, I guess.
And would you ever do 2 matches in a day?
I very rarely. I have before, but yeah, it's something. Just mindful of burning out, and I've got a wife and 2 young boys at home as well, and just want to try and devote as much time on weekends when I'm not working to being a family man as well. So I try to avoid it if I can. Yeah.
How do you decide what game you go to? Because are you going over to Perth much, or
no?
You're just mainly Melbourne?
Yeah, I'm mainly Melbourne based. The only time I'll go interstate during the home and away season is if there might be a golf championship in Perth and all the photographers are on that, and we can't get anyone there, so I might go to cover their absence. But finals, travel everywhere. Go to all the big games, and yeah, I basically do all the rostering from an AFL Photos perspective. So it's generally, any sort of Friday night I'm always on if it's in Melbourne. And then on a Saturday, it kind of just, I'm working with what other photographers want to shoot and, what the big games are, and we sort of decide it that way. So, it's funny, but most of my travel is actually in the pre-season when we take all the team photos and player headshots. So basically January, February and early March are dedicated to getting to all the clubs, the interstate ones as well, and capturing all those team photos and player portraits and headshots that you see on the broadcast and on the big screen at the games. So, yeah.
And then what? November, December, you just take off?
Well, not now that AFLW's been
of course,
scheduled in for that. The AFLW season is also a big part of our coverage as well.
So last year would have been huge then, with 3 seasons into one.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a massive year with season 7 of the AFLW tacked on to the end of the year. It really stretched all our resources, but everyone at the AFL did such a great job in getting 3 seasons done in 12 months, and thankfully we shouldn't have to go down that path again. The AFLW kicks off early September, I think it is, late August. We cover all that like we do the men's. We do all their team photos and player portraits. We'll probably have to do that in June and July and knock all that over, and I think the season will probably wrap up end of November. So that leaves December. And I'll be going away for a holiday then.
Very good. What about your weekly schedule? Are you shooting all the time? Are there certain days that are different to the weekends? What's your weekly routine like?
Yeah, So Mondays are what I call my admin day. I've got with rostering and sort of managing other photographers. There's a lot of meetings and stuff I have to sort of sit in on and contribute to, and I also go through and do a sweep of all the match coverage from all the matches on a Monday as well, and just make sure all the coverage is up to scratch, and no one's missed anything.
So you're like the teams. You're doing a Monday morning review.
Yeah, exactly. I am. Yeah.
Do the votes for the weekend.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. My Mondays are like just emails, meetings, just admin. So I rarely shoot on a Monday. Wednesdays are kind of my day off, where if I'm shooting on a Friday or a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, as is the case in the first 3 rounds of this year, I'll sort of try to have a Wednesday and a Tuesday off if I can. It really does depend on what's on during the week. The focus is the match day coverage, and then if there's specific shoots during the week that I've been requested to shoot, I'll sort of work my days off around that. Outside of that, just try and get to a training session or a media op or something like that to cover off, and that's pretty much it. But like I said, there's so many Thursday night games this year, so you're looking at 4 days straight of AFL for a lot of rounds this year. So it doesn't give you much opportunity to get the camera out during the week if you're trying to if you don't want to work 7 days a week. And like I said, I'm mindful of the fact that I've got a young family at home, so where I can try and take that day off and work around it.
We love the 4 days straight, but it can be tough on some. I was thinking before, I was like, oh yes, it's another Thursday. It basically feels like the weekend's early.
Does I think Thursday night footy's fantastic.
It's great.
Yeah, I think it's got a real future, and I think it's been great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Say I'm brand new to photography, just picked up a camera. I might not have before. What are 3 tips to start taking really quality photos from the get-go?
My first would be to get your head around the principles of photography, like the relationship between ISO, exposure, and shutter speed. So it might sound like tech jargon again.
Love it.
Those 3 things are critical to you understanding how to achieve the photos you want to get. The second would be get good gear, especially if you want to shoot sports and AFL. You have to have a long lens, like a telephoto lens, to get that reach, to get those really great action shots. Third bit of advice would be just shoot. Just get out there and teach yourself. Like I said, if you can get your head around those principles of shutter speed, aperture, and ISO, and then start putting them into action by just getting out there and shooting, trying different things, that'd be my advice. Yep.
Nice.
Shutter speed, for someone who's got no idea about photography, like how does that make a difference?
So shutter speed is how long the shutter is open for. So a fast shutter speed, say 1/1000th of a second, is probably the minimum you want to freeze motion.
Right.
Okay, so if you've got a player running in front of you, if you have a shutter speed of, say, a 25th of a second, you're going to have blur. It's going to blur. So, shutter speed is basically how long the shutter stays open for to expose the sensor. So the quicker the shutter, the sharper and more motion is frozen in the image, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
Freeze motion. Yeah, I understand.
That's why our photos are always blurred.
Yeah, exactly right.
Shutter speed poor.
Yeah. Awesome. We've actually got Pranav's in the next room. He does some casual photography on the side. We're wondering if you could give him a couple of tips, if that's all right, if we bring him in.
Yeah. Yep.
Pranav, are you out there?
Live tips. I love this.
Depends what kind of camera is. Has he got a Canon?
I'm not sure if he's got the long one. Pranav, have you got a couple of your photos there?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Live feedback on the podcast. I think this
feedback on the photos. Okay, yep.
So Pranav's in his second year uni.
Yep.
Second year uni, takes a few casual photos on the weekend. Let's have a look at this.
Okay.
We'll get these on the feed for those watching.
All right.
For those listening, you can find them on socials, I think. But,
So, do you want to describe what photo's taken there?
Yeah, so is this it looks like an amateur training session or something like that? Yeah. It's a kicking pose. I would say like it's you've got the pose right, like the ball drop is at a good part of the ball drop where it's just about to sort of fall from the hand. The thing I would say that's probably distracting in this particular image are all the cars in the background. So this is kind of what I'm saying, like a long lens would, allow you to blur those cars out a little bit. But yeah, apart from that, look, I think the colours are really good. The contrast is good. Your exposure is bang on. So I think, the background is probably just the only aspect of that photo that's probably just lacking a little bit. But it's good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So when you look at a photo, what does your mind instantly go to?
Well, it kind of depends what sort of photo it is. If you're talking like an action shot, I'm sort of drawn to the pose of the player. Like, is it like a really athletic pose? Like, if it's a high mark, like, can you see his face clearly? How high off the ground is he? And then, you kind of start analysing the background and the exposure and the white balance and all sorts of other stuff. But and the sharpness and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. You can always, like, there's good photos and there's bad photos, and you can tell straight away where the good ones and the bad ones are. Yeah.
So it sounds like your experience back out at Lake Boga really comes to use when you're trying to pick the best athletic pose for a footballer, because you understand, where is the highest point to catch a ball, or where do you lowest point to drop a ball, that sort of thing. Yeah,
look, I think even though I did play it just at a country level, it does hold me in good stead for being able to have a feel for the game. I think I think being able to sort of, playing all those years, you get a feel for, reading the play and reading the drop of the ball off hands and that kind of stuff. And, sometimes those little 1%ers can sort of make all the difference when it comes to capturing, a particular photo. So who knows?
Awesome. Any other photos you want feedback on?
There's a couple
next to it. So. Go next? Yeah. Very good. I like how her eyes are straight through the hands there. That's really well timed.
So what's happening in this photo?
Yeah, so we've got a girl who's about to mark the ball. It's like a training session again. And her eyes she's got her hands up near her eyes, and her eyes are peering straight through the gap of her hands. It's a really nice little composition. And I like the fact that she's sort of about to leap into the air. Again, probably, just the background is letting it down. But look, it's a great shot of an amateur training session for sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
How good's that?
This next one, I can see the thumbnail. It looks like a nice sort of sunset. Yeah. Well, it's not a sunset, but it's like golden hour, what we call golden hour, where, it's sort of dusk, the sun's setting, and it's like that dusky kind of feel, and you get these beautiful golden tones coming through, which this photo has. It's a boy about to mark the ball. And the sun's behind him, and this is what I'm talking about. The background makes such a difference. So there's just trees in the background here, and it's so much cleaner than the cars and that kind of stuff. So for me, straight away, that the subject just pops from the background because there's no distracting elements there. This is awesome. I'd love to see the frames before and after it, because he's got his hand sort of obstructing his face. If in the frame next to it or the frame before it, if the ball's a little bit closer to his hands and his hand is away from his face, you always want to be able to see a face. A face is, that's a big thing, to be able to see the face in an action photo. But look, the light is really nice in that. He's got this really nice rim lighting going behind him, and there's a bit of lens flare as well. So, and like mottled light on the grass. No, it's a nice picture, definitely.
Amazing. Great work, Pranav.
How good's that? Live feedback.
Yeah.
We're trying to get Pranav down to take some photos of our cricket club next season. So,
well, he could be your man.
I think so.
Yep.
and some headshots recently at our Deakin Open Day as well. So
nice.
It's all happening.
Yeah.
Great work.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that. That was brilliant. How good's listening to live feedback?
I thought he was going to bring a camera in. Oh, yeah. The way you were describing it was he's got a Canon 60D or something. Expose the manual thing on it. But anyway, all good.
All good. What are the main challenges in your job at the moment?
Main challenges, I guess, it can be taxing, working sort of, late nights and then backing up again for, for example, I think Friday night, I shot the Geelong Collingwood match. Probably didn't get home till 12:30 or something, and then shooting 1:45 the next day. There's not much time to sort of, back up and reassess, and you're just straight back into it. So you're kind of running on not much sleep and that kind of stuff. So that's always, a constant challenge, just managing your time and not burning out with all the weekend work and sort of unsociable hours, I guess. But yeah, the constant challenge with my role is just to continue, from a personal perspective, just to continue to just try and get those moments and sort of try and push the envelope where you can with your portraiture or whatever it might be, but just just keep rowing the boat, I guess, and just keep covering the match as best I can and trying to sort of tell the stories of the game through the lens that so people can appreciate the game for what it is photographically as well.
Would you say that's what keeps you going? Because you've been doing this for 16 years now.
Yeah, definitely. That the prospect of getting that next great photo is definitely what keeps me sort of really up and about. Like Friday night, as unfortunate as it was, the incident with Jeremy Howe, the photos of him sort of mid-air are just spectacular.
I did say that one. That was very good.
Yeah, and you get a real rush and a buzz when you sort of capture something so unique and a sense of pride in that you're switched on, you got the shot, and you covered a really big event in that match photographically. So that's what that buzz that you get from nailing a shot or a moment. High marks are the pinnacle. If you get a great frame of the mark of the year or just any spectacular mark, that buzz, the anticipation of looking on the back of your camera at the frame is you can't beat it. It's hard to describe. Yeah. You usually know before you look at it, but it's hard to describe when you see something pretty epic on the back of your camera. You get pretty excited and it keeps you going, keeps you up and about, that's for sure. Yeah.
Sounds like sure plenty of addicts would have described their addictions in a similar way, but there are worse things to be addicted to.
I don't know if it's adrenaline or whatever it is, but something races through your body and it's pretty addictive. Yeah.
That's awesome to hear. What would you be doing if you weren't a photographer?
Whoa. It's a good question. I dare say I'd be sort of in graphic design still. I still have a real passion for design, not like I used to, but I still love, working with colour and type and, marrying all that with pictures as well. But I'd say given I've got a technical background in it and experience in design, that's probably where I would land if I wasn't a photographer, I'd say. But I don't know. I don't really tend to think about it that much. Yeah.
Nice. Michael, last question. If you could leave one piece of advice for a uni student hoping to be a sports photographer, what would that be?
It would be, I sort of touched on this earlier, but just get the gear and shoot. It's pretty simple. You just got to put yourself out there, get a decent camera, long lens, and just teach yourself how to take great pictures. Yeah, pretty simple.
Nice. We love simple advice. Yeah. Brilliant. Rubes, before we end it, any other episodes for those listening that's related to photography and media that people can listen to?
Yeah, well, if you're a big AFL fan and big AFL media fan, then Michael, you're the star of the photography scene. Brian Taylor's another star of the commentary scene. He's on episode 210 for those who want to listen to that. And then going back another 100 episodes, Hamish McLaughlin was 124 as well. So for those people who want to hear how all different sides of AFL are covered, then there's 3 of the best for you right there.
Awesome. Michael, it has been an honour to have you in here. Like, honestly, hearing you talk about that Buddy 1000 experience was gripping. Like we said right there, like probably some of the best podcast content we ever had. So really appreciate you coming in and just sharing what your world looks like. And I must say, we've probably seen your photos ever since we've started watching AFL. So it's really quite amazing having you in here and talking about it. So really appreciate you coming in.
No worries, boys. Thanks for having me.
Guys, it's time now for everyone's favourite segment, the people's segment, Ask SportsGrad, where every week we answer a question from our community. If you'd like to ask us a question, first become a SportsGrad member at sportsgrad.com.au/community. Then add your question to our Discord channel named Ask SportsGrad. Rubes, this week this comes from member Daniel. He's just starting to get into the networking game. Where can I start?
Oof. Jeez.
Big few years ahead for you, Daniel.
Very big, very big. Firstly, I might just say, if there's a reason why Daniel, you haven't started just yet, if it's because you're afraid or, it's anxiety inducing just to think about it, just know that you're not alone.
Yep.
I think yourself, me included, a lot of our podcast guests have talked about the fact that when they are starting out their careers and thinking about networking, it is scary. So everybody goes through it. You're not alone, Daniel. But the first thing I would say is just acknowledge that, because once you've acknowledged it, suddenly it doesn't seem so scary. But then you just want to lean into it. You don't want to just throw yourself in straight away. Just lean into it. So jumping straight in might be sending a cold message out to the CEO of the AFL straight away, and you don't get a response, and straight away you think, oh crap, what was the point? I feel terrible. Never doing that again, because now, it's not great. So lean into networking. If you have a friend who knows somebody who's working in sport, just ask them if they can connect you up. Try and make these soft entries into networking. So if getting the connection is the issue, start with your immediate circle around you. Now, if sending the outreach isn't the issue, perhaps it's actually having the conversation that's the issue too. So one way that you can overcome those fears of talking to other people is actually do your preparation. So if you know that you've got a conversation coming up, say you've arranged a coffee with this person who's a friend of a friend, do your preparation on them in advance so you know what to ask them. And you literally might jot down 5 or 6 questions to have and keep them in your pocket in case you need them to ask them. And when I've been catching up with people, I've literally had people say, Ruben, I hope this isn't weird, but on the drive to meet you, I wrote down a few questions on my phone that I'd love to ask you. Do you mind if I get them out? And I was like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
To me, I was actually really impressed. It shows me that you're curious, you're thinking, you care about our time as well, because the worst thing you can do for somebody else is waste their time. But if you come prepared, that's kind of the greatest show of appreciation you can really give them. So if the conversation scares you, do your preparation, prepare some questions, and don't be afraid to pull them out if you absolutely need to. But that's probably where I'd start. After that, you will slowly gain confidence and continue to cast your net far and wide, because you just never know who might be out there and who can help you. And the great thing about the sports industry is that people want to help you. It is a very kind, generous and friendly industry. And I can guarantee you that if you meet someone, you are highly likely to walk away feeling great about it.
Brilliant. I agree with all that. Look what's under your nose first of all. It's a lot easier than just going cold.
Who was the first person that you ever networked or had a coffee with?
Yeah, so it was Paul Pios from Inside 50 Player Management. So when I first left school, I told this story the other day. I remember he was my footy coach in year 11. So I hadn't really spoken to him in a couple of years, but I knew him, and he was my coach, so I knew him a little bit. But once I finished school, I found out that he was running a player management business, and I was sort of looking into that as a potential career path. And I remember I was chatting to my mum, and she was like, "Just give Paul a call." And I was like, "Oh, I can't call him." And I actually tracked down his email address through our family email. It was somehow on like a footy email or something. And I remember drafting an email. It took me about 3 weeks to draft, and I probably did about 30 of them. But then I finally got the courage to click it, and it was the best coffee ever, and got an unpaid internship from it. So
amazing.
Just send the message. Don't worry about the consequences. You'll regret not sending it. What's the worst that can happen?
Well, that's a perfect example of leaning on your immediate circle.
100%.
I think the polar opposite to that is doing what our great friend of the show, Aman Alawalia, does.
Yeah.
So when he was doing his Masters of Sport Management at Ohio University over in the US, he would try and find the second half of people's email addresses. So at sanfranciscogiants.com or something like that.
Yeah.
And he would try and guess the front half. So would it be Ryan at, or would it be Ryan.Walker at?
Yeah.
And then he would send out these emails to all the different variations to try and get an in. And eventually someone replied to him from the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
That is how he ended up getting his job at the Kansas City Chiefs. He actually got a promotion the other day. I'm not sure if you saw that.
Yeah.
He's now the head of insights and analytics, or head of partnerships at BSE Global, who look after the Brooklyn Nets, Patty Mills's club. Like, massive job.
Ben Simmons,
big
club.
Big club. I think he talks about that in his first podcast we did with him, which was 57.
Yeah.
57. And then he came back in 157, I think. Something about
Because it was 100 after.
What's that pronounced? 159.
Brilliant.
So, yeah, not too far off.
That's why we need that's why we have the gents in the room.
That's it.
It's brilliant. 159
for the Q&A networking episode with our man Aman. But there's a bit to work with, Dan.
Yeah. Hope that helped, Daniel. Good on you, mate. And thanks for your question as well. If you'd like to ask us a question or ask our friends in sport a question, sign up and become a SportsGrad member. Each week, as we mentioned, we jump on an Ask SportsGrad session every Wednesday night, and it's an open floor for you to ask us or the industry professionals any of your questions. So as Rube said, we've got an absolute huge lineup coming up, so get involved when you can. All those sessions are also recorded, so you get over 50 hours of exclusive content all ready for you to watch back. So if you can't make the sessions, that's totally okay. In the meantime, find us on LinkedIn and give us some love with a rating if you enjoy the show. Subscribe on Apple or follow on Spotify. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Hey guys, one last thing before you go. If you'd enjoy a quick email from us each Friday on all the latest job openings, networking events, Q&As with industry professionals, and latest podcast episodes, then subscribe to the SportsGrad newsletter. Head to our website, www.sportsgrad.com.au/newsletter to subscribe. There's also a link in our show notes to join.